It was a normal weekend, nothing special. But that weekend, I was going to try 3 grams of magic mushrooms. So I took these 3 grams, hoping for a very solitary and introspective psychedelic experience. I was really feeling the effects. I meditated. I went outside, hugged a tree for 40 minutes, and then I went inside.
So me and my mom had the opportunity to go see Keith Richards playing with the Expensive Winos, which is one of his old bands that he hadn't played with in over 30 years. So it was a pretty big deal. And the show was in New York, which is about like 4 to 5 hours from my house. And I was driving. We were going down the highway, cruising, listening to music, passing joints. It was all really fun. We were having a lot of fun.
Let me take you back to my senior year of high school. I had one activity on my mind, and that activity was drinking alcohol. I kept getting chances to drink by breaking into this abandoned hospital, going to the roof, and just partying up there, so I did it a lot. I'd done it about 3 times before this particular night, so I knew what I was doing, I was sort of on the more knowledgeable crew leading in novices to get in there.
So I sit on the sofa and I decided that I want to see visuals, colors, so I hop on TikTok, put my brightness at full percent, and I started rushing through my feed. And then suddenly I got a notification of low battery, 10%. And in that moment I was like, whoa. This 10% right now is my life. I don't know how my brain got there, but I truly believed at the end of this 10% I was going to die.
So for my mom, going to take her son to see Keith Richards play was a really big deal for her, and it was a big deal for me too. We were both really excited. And, for the majority of the ride, we had been talking and stuff. And I remember, saying something to her. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I remember her response was just kind of like a groan. And it was just like, I don't know, it's hard to see. It was hard to tell what she said. And so I looked over to see if she was okay, but I couldn't really look for that long because I was going like 80 miles per hour down the Mass Pike.
On this particular night, me and a couple of other more experienced friends went ahead of the group of about 10, 12 people who waited in safety for us to break in. We noticed that the typical window was boarded off, and we located a local stick, 10-foot stick on the ground. And then we had one guy keep watch while me and another took this stick and just stuck it in between the wood and the window and just pried, absolutely hacked away at it for like 10, 15 minutes, making thunderous amounts of noise. We had to hide underground a couple times because we thought the cops were going to come for us because we were being so fucking loud. However, we eventually got in, told everyone to get up there, and as they came up, we cracked open a bottle of white wine, and then the group entered the building, headed up to the roof. We partied there, we chilled there, we drank there, we broke bread. But it was time to go, and we went back downstairs.
And in that moment, I was like, what if I just turn off my phone, conserve the battery life? But then I thought, no, that's not really how life works. You can't pause life. So I continued my scrolling. 10%, checked my messages, see if I had any important things to say last. Then 9%, I scrolled on TikTok. Then 9% became 8, 8% became 7, 7% became 6. And I looked over back at the percentage, and I just noticed I wasted 40% of my life just scrolling TikTok.
The more that I was talking to her, the less that she was responding. And so I saw a quick exit for like a truck stop, and I pulled over off the highway, and I looked over at her, and her face was off to the right, like away from me, like facing away from me, so I couldn't see her face. And
Beautiful view up there on top of the roof. Anyways, we finished partying, finished chilling, and some people wanted to go back down, so we went back down. We filed out of the building one by one, jumping through the window as we had before, but there was a problem, and that problem was, in order to get out, we had to pass by the road where the security guard would be waiting for us. So we had to make absolutely no noise. They definitely knew we were there because previously we had been very loud. So this was a challenge. We tiptoed, creeped up to the top of the hill that we needed to sprint down, and we just booked it straight down. Tried to get off the property as fast as possible, and right when I got to the bottom of the hill, I saw headlights behind me, and I was just fucking terrified. I saw the headlights behind me, and it scared the shit out of me. I immediately just ran. I didn't say anything. I didn't give anyone any warning. They were behind me. They saw me run. I ran. They ran.
And as 6% became 5, 5% became 4, 4% became 3, I looked over and I could definitely feel the impending doom. But I was okay. There was a certain peace about it. And then 3% became 2%, and 2% became 1%. And at this point, as I was waiting for my life to end, I was totally okay. And there was no fear in my mind. I had come to accept my death. I had to let it go.
And so I was, like, Mom, and she's not responding. So I grabbed her face and turned it near mine to look at her, and her eyes were rolling around, and she couldn't control her head. When I moved her head just kept moving in that direction. It was kind of rolling around and stuff, and she's having a seizure, and so I was really freaked out. I was starting to cry, and I kind of panicked, and I looking at her, she wasn't responding to me, so I got out of the car and ran over to a truck nearby, and there was someone inside, and so I banged on the door, and I was like, please call 911, my mom's having a seizure. And so I ran back over to the car, and I looked, sorry. Sorry.
And I jumped behind a bush. Everyone got cover. We all just lied flat on the ground and played dead. Hoped they would not see us. And that was the most intense 5 minutes of my life coming up, just lying down there. Soon, footsteps and a flashlight approached. At this point was when I knew it was over.
And so I ran back over to the car, and got inside and grabbed my mom's face again and tried to look into her eyes, but they were just super glazed over, and like I was looking into her eyes, but she wasn't looking back, and so I was kind of shaking her face a little bit, trying to get her to trying to get her to kind of become aware of everything, kind of come to. And so eventually she started kind of coming back together, and she and I was like, can you see me, and eventually she starts nodding her head yeah, and then eventually she was able to speak again and stuff. And so and she was super freaked out, she didn't know what was going on. She was like, why are we pulled over, and was like, "You just had a seizure." And she was like, "No, I didn't." I was like, "Yeah, you did. You definitely just had a seizure." And so the guy that I had asked for help came over to our car door, and he started talking to me and stuff, and seeing if she was okay. And she was kind of like, "Get that guy away from the car. Like, who is that?" And she's like, "Why is that guy talking to us? I don't want his help." And I was like, "Well, you had a seizure. Like, I asked him for help."
I really wasn't going to let this ruin me. I was going to enjoy the time I had left. So I scrolled TikTok once again until an ad caught my eye. I hate ads. So I decided to report it and get it off my feed. But as I went to go report it and press down on the button, the screen went black.
Ambulance arrived, and they were like checking out my mom, but she's had seizures before, so she was okay afterwards, but like, really freaked me out a lot. And so the EMTs were checking her out and stuff, and she was all right. And so they really were suggesting that we take her back to the hospital.
Through the leaves of the bush, I peered and saw his flashlight at most 10 feet away from me. I knew it was over. My world caved in as he stopped in his tracks and he turned to us. And what he said, I'll never forget. "Yeah, you guys are good. The cop went the other way. I'm just checking for ice."
It was weird. I was gone, but I was still there. My brain was completely empty. It was like my brain was processing the fact that I was still alive. And then I realized I could plug my phone in.
And my mom was like, "I'm not paying for that, and we're seeing Keith Richards, so fuck that." And they were like, "Keith Richards, like, he's still alive?" And she was like, "Yeah, he's still alive. We're going to see him tonight. Like, I'm not missing Keith Richards for some bum ass hospital." And so she was and so they like checked with me to make sure that I thought my mom seemed fine, and I did. And so I kept driving, and we ended up getting to New York. She was like a little bit queasy for a little bit, but she ended up being all right, and we ended up going to see a really great show, and it was really fun.
From there, a few members of the group went up to the man and started talking. I have no idea what they said. I was nonverbal. I just stumbled into the street, hyperventilating, breathing out all the negative feelings that had overwhelmed me. My world had just been ripped from me. And when I looked up at the sky, the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen, it felt as if it returned to me.